Before we get into this episode, I would like to make a quick disclaimer that all of Society Inspired's interviews and the information we share are 100% for learning experience and to hear the different sides of the various issues we discuss. We never endorse nor support violence, and we are committed to promoting peace. I want to create a safe space for learning and comfortable place for people to be able to start to speak. Hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 23rd episode of Society Inspired. My name is Gemma. I'm a 16-year-old Palestinian American teen. I'm so excited to have Ayan Absiye as our special guest for episode number 23. Would you like to introduce yourself, tell us your story, and also share your preferred pronouns, please?
Yeah, every time you do your intros or I watch any of your things and you're like, I'm 16-year-old, I'm Palestinian, I'm like, you are killing it already. And every single time I hear it, I'm like, wow. But hi guys, my name is Ayan. I'm currently in Toronto, Ontario, studying at the University of Toronto, studying political science, history, and I'm forgetting something, African studies. And I'm an education and youth activist. I work around creating spaces for youth to feel empowered, to feel that they can go out into society and give it all they got, and just feel accepted in whatever roles they decide to go on in the future. I know growing up in Toronto, I sometimes felt that my ethnicity or my religion was kind of like a barrier to certain spaces, especially like growing up. So anything I could do to help the next generation and even those within my generation feel like empowered, I'm very happy to do. And I'm so excited once again to be here today.
Hey, what inspired you to start advocating for education? I know you kind of just gave a surface level, but
Yeah, we could get into it. Yeah.
yeah, just dig in there.
So yeah, I would say it first started in high school. I went to a school in grade 10 and 11 where it's a school where they celebrate STEM education, which is very important. I love STEM girlies and guys. But I never really considered myself when I was always like a humanities, history, law. I was always into that sort of education. And growing up, and in that school, they would often tell me that I shouldn't really go after those subjects because they weren't going to be fruitful, or as a woman, and I remember my principal specifically saying, as a Somali woman, you don't have a space in that studying that like certain topics. I should go for things that are like profitable. And he just kept saying, you're Somali, you can't do this. And just kept bringing up that. And I'm like, just sitting there, I'm like, what does me being Somali have anything to do with what I study? Yeah, like what I study, what I choose to do with my future. If I want to learn about certain topics, if I feel passionate about it, like
Mm-hmm.
what's here? And yeah, so like I felt left that room because the principal called me in just to like speak about this. He was like, listen, man, you're Somali. You don't need to do this. Just stick to
That's
getting it.
crazy. I
He's
cannot.
like, mm-mm. He's literally like, stick to something where you can get money out of it. I think he was alluding to like my parents being immigrants and I don't have that much opportunities here that I should just stick with something that'll get me money and I could be in a better situation than my parents. And I'm like, my parents are happy here and like although they went through like trials here in Canada and to get here,
Yeah,
they're happy with just like whatever I decide to do with my life. And
exactly.
they it's like I know like a lot of like child of immigrants, you could probably relate. Our parents just want us to be happy and fulfilled. They want us to just follow our heart. And him just being like, don't do that. I swear I was like 15,
That's
16. So I'm like,
crazy. That's absolutely nuts.
yeah. I was like, what's going on here, mister? I know like you're in a position of power. I know you're a principal. And I really respect principals out here because any educator, like within trying to help students, I really respect it. But when it comes to you diminishing me or like diminishing, if you're doing it to me, I know you're doing it to other Somali students
Mm,
and other students who are like marginalized or who
yeah.
come from different backgrounds than him, he was doing it to. So I'm like, this is just not a situation where I feel uplifted. I left that room so like, I was confused. I'm like, if he's telling me that, like, I just started questioning myself. I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Like, should I just, he's an elder. I should listen to him. He probably has more experience than me. And I was just like questioning myself. And when I came into that room, I was sure of myself. And then like leaving it, I was just
Yeah.
like, I felt vulnerable. And I really didn't like that at all. I came home, I told my parents, and they told me that it's my decision, like, I should be happy, like, that's number 1, and they like,
Oh,
my mom especially, she was like, "What is he doing? Why is he confusing you? Like, what's
and
going
like
on?"
what like there is nobody has the right to say
Mhm,
what you can do with your life. Like your
exactly.
parents can guide you or an elder can guide you into what they think
Mm,
is like good for you. But nobody can tell you what you want to do with your life. Nobody knows you the way that you know yourself. And
yeah.
two, he was definitely scared of your determination. So
Yeah, and it wasn't like I knew myself fully. It wasn't like I never like growing up, I never really like was like I want to be a doctor, I was an engineer. It was like a journey, I would say. Like I would read something and I would get more interested and I didn't have a dark path or something that I was interested. My parents both they work in Toronto, but they never had an education. They weren't able to because they immigrated here and they had to go straight to work. So they didn't have the time to do so. But they, although they couldn't guide me in high school and post-secondary and just trying to help me educationally, like they would tell me just discipline, you can do this, they'll support me, but they didn't really have the tools that I know students who have parents who've gone through it as well would have give
yeah,
them. But I just knew along the lines that I would love to do something where I could write, where I can like speak my mind. And I always found like law and history as something I could reflect in and something that was I was able to just be like I would be myself, like and I
yeah,
just felt that like in high school and yeah, that principal wasn't doing his job. And now as I'm more mature, I understand that not
yeah.
all people are the best. Not
No,
all of
and you
them are
can't
the
take it personally. It's hard, but you can't take it personally.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my first encounters, I would say, of racism, my first
Yeah.
encounter within like the educational like institution within the educational space. And I just really wanted from that point to like be able to empower students to like to know that although like principals and teachers they have lots of wisdom, but there are certain flaws within like they're not always the best people to go for advice, even though I had the best teachers, like, I can say the best teachers, but, at the end of the day, especially as a racialized student, you know yourself, and if they ever are in a position to tell you that you're not, just don't take it personally and just try to move on. I know it was harmful for me, like, I was questioning myself, but I never want a student, a youth to ever feel like they, need to question themselves because of what somebody in authority had to say or is saying to them.
So now we're going to move into your accomplishments,
Mm.
which are many. Um,
Settle.
so, Mr. Principal, if you're listening, you are a part of the United Nations Association in Canada as a Gen SDG ambassador. So, what is it like sharing spaces with other youth activists speaking about topics you are passionate about?
Yeah, I really enjoyed being a SDG ambassador so far. I can say like being a part of a community where it's like a safe space for advocates, for activists, for youth who are able to be in a space to like speak their minds and not come off as like not come off in a negative light, like where it's a space where we have elders, we have like experts and everybody there, but they value like youth experiences. They value what we have to say. And the fact that the program is created to like empower us, I just felt like even from our first day of meeting each other, we were like, hi, how are you? You're from this part of
Oh,
Canada. Like it was just a great experience and us talking about how we got into our advocacy journey and just hearing how every single person really does have their own story of how they got into it, either if it was through an incident that happened in their local city, or if it's something that they seen growing up. Like, it's just really nice to hear that everybody has their own story of how they came into it, and that they all are like youth. Like, we're all speaking about important topics, but it's something that is like cultivated in a space where we can have the opportunity to. And yeah, I just really like it so far.
Awesome. You currently work in the political office of the Minister for Women, Gender Equality, and Youth of Canada. How is it like working in politics at a young age? And any advice you would like to give to others looking to take up that space as well?
Yeah, so I first started this summer. It was an internship created where they invite well, you have to apply, and they invite youth to intern in different offices of Canadian parliamentary members and ministers. And it's called the Summer Leadership Program if anyone's really interested in it. I started off the summer interning for the Minister of Women, Youth, and Gender Equality. And when I tell you, it was like the best time I ever had, like, in a job. Like, I know a job is a job, and we work, and there's lots of meetings and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But I never really saw myself working in politics or being in politics. I always was interested in politics and policy making, and just wanted to understand, like, why certain policies were made, like what was the thinking behind it, or if the bad policies that we have in Toronto, were they thought of it as intentional, or like, I always was just like really wanting to know like the process of it all.
yeah.
And when I tell you, the minister, Marcy Ian, she is one of the most welcoming, like, people I've ever met in politics so far. Like, she always tells me this story where she was a broadcast journalist before becoming a minister, and she would always tell me that I never really wanted to be a politician. She was always like, she would tell me that I just happened to join it because she was asked. And she's like, and people sometimes join politics for the wrong reasons. And she would say that I made a little more money being a broadcast journalist. I have no incentive to be here other than wanting to help and be like a role model for young Black women and young women in general to work in politics. And when I got that email saying that I was placed in her office, I was like going crazy. I was like, yes, because not oftentimes you work
Yeah.
under, you see lots of women in politics in Canada. We currently have like 30% of women out of like the 100%. There's like 30% of women in the parliament right now. And although like it has been getting gradually better, I've always wondered why that might be. And just working in the office that is, she has in the office is all women as well who's working for her. And now being like a full-time member, I kind of see like the inside of politics, if that makes sense. I studied political science, I've seen it in the news, I've always like engaged with it from like an advocacy and community organizing side, but being able to see like how decisions are made, or like the planning that goes into certain things, I have a new look on it. I've always been a little bit pessimistic about politics.
A hard
Long
word.
Yeah, I always been like pessimistic about politics before working in it, because I
Okay.
always found it to be just like a little bit scary as
Uh,
like a
yeah.
as a
Intimidating.
only only because I felt that there is a lot of things going on in our world, and these are like people who are supposed to make decisions like on our behalf. Like, they're supposed to be our advocates. Like, we elect them, and they're supposed to be able to deliver like very good things for the country or the city, the province. And I always never really seen it as welcoming. I don't know why. I just thought I had this like notion in my head. I'm like,
Okay.
politics scary, like not something I would be
Yeah.
interested. I like learning about it, but I would never like work in it. And now being in it, I like seeing how there are advocates who work in politics. You can be a politician, like the minister I'm working for, and you can be like an advocate. You can be like, you're able to work for the people and be able to deliver
Oh,
as you're elected to do. And she always tells me like she does not like tote the party line. She if she has something to say, she's not afraid to say it and she's not scared of the backlash about it. So I remember there was a refugee crisis that happened in May, and about a month there was West African refugees left on a street in Toronto, and I was not able to wrap my head around that. I'm like, yes, I work in government, but I'm an advocate at heart, I'm a human at heart,
yeah,
like, why would our government leave refugees on the streets? There were
yeah,
some who were pregnant, there were some women who needed food, shelter, there were, like, a lot of children, a lot of men who needed a space, like, we're known as a country that's a
yeah,
safe haven, we're known as, like, the place to be for immigrants, but
yeah.
why is it that there was so many West African refugees being left on the street for days and days in the rain, the cold, like, it was just really bad conditions.
Yes.
So I asked her, I was a little nervous. I asked her and our whole team, we had like a team meeting about it. And she said, I am always going to be an advocate for issues that like lie at the heart of
Mhm.
politics. Like she was telling me that there was a lot of things being done, but it is hard, especially when it comes to like events that happen in her own neighborhood because it hit her harder, like in her own riding.
Mm.
And I was there and I just wanted to like speak my mind and tell her that I felt like really bad about this. I'm like,
Yeah,
how can I be of someone who's working in politics and not have like answers for like my parents when they ask like what is the government doing about this? Like what's going on? Like I felt that I needed to be informed so I can help like those who are not in politics understand like what's going on because it's oftentimes the people who don't work in like I remember when I didn't work in politics, I was like, what is going on? Like I know you guys are saying you're working on it, but like what is
are
the
you?
behind
Yeah,
like are you? Like are you
yeah,
just saying that as like government messaging or like what's going on?
for sure.
So I basically saw like them being consulting with organizations, asking organizations, what do you want? Like, how can we support you? And at the end, there was, I think it was like 96 million. You might need to fact check me, but around that number of money going to the city of Toronto in order to help them and like move them
Wow.
to shelter. And there was like a lot of work being done. And a lot of it had to do with like what the minister I'm working for advocated for. Like I remember when in our team meeting, she's like, this is totally wrong. Like, I'm the minister of women. Like, there's women out here on the streets and gender and youth as well. And she was telling me that this is something that needed to be
Yeah,
resolved. I saw it be resolved, but it's just in the beginning, I was like, "What is going on?" And now being able to see, like, the process of things being, resolved, I was just happy about that. And, yeah, so, like, anytime I get to, like, show other youth and access to politics or show them that they can be who they are, you can be an activist, you can be, able to speak your mind in politics and not get fired.
yeah,
And feel like the minister I work for is, like, the living proof of that, and if she's able to do that, like, on the national stage, anyone can
yes,
do that as well.
for sure. Um, you were also featured in the Women in Leadership panel for our past interviewee, Rotika Saraswat's nonprofit, Redefined. How was that? And what points inspired you and did you speak about?
Yeah, I really liked that event. Ritika was so happy enough to create this event and like do a lot of hard work into organizing it. And when she reached out to me to be a panel member, I was a little nervous, but I was excited because anytime I get to be in a room full of women who are just really there to uplift themselves, to talk about important topics, I'm like, I'm very much down.
Yep.
And this one was really about like how we it could empower women in the corporate space, in the advocacy space, in just like our world in general. And we were all talking about how oftentimes it's our voice that is diminished, or we feel that society tells us as women that we can't be who we are. An example of that is like we can't be girly enough, or we can't like dress up as like what we want to dress up and taken seriously as if we just came here not fully who we are.
Yeah.
And I remember there was somebody who said that they felt shy sometimes because she works in the corporate world. She's like she was shy because she really wanted to take on some like a task at her workplace, but she felt that she really couldn't because she was in a room full of guys. And there's still sectors in our society, there's still like spaces where women are like the minority, and it's hard. Like it's I could imagine like sometimes like I'm the only Muslim woman in spaces, and I understand that it could feel like not the best because you often have to answer questions that are about like where you come from, and you have to be like the spokesman person for that, and it's not
Yeah.
comfortable sometimes. And
Very
when you're the only one in spaces, it's hard to just like exist. And so we are talking about how sometimes it's okay to be who you are and not care about how others perceive you or how others see you. Because I remember the other panelist was saying her name is Tuba. She's really exciting advocate in Toronto. I'm like, I need to give her shout out because what she said that day, like, even changed my mindset a lot. She was like, whatever somebody has to say about you, really, or think of you or see you, is really none of your business. And I really liked when she said that because I don't know, growing up, I always felt that if I didn't do something perfectly, or if I wasn't like saying something, or I felt that if I wasn't put together all of the time, that people were going to judge me, or if people if I didn't like do something as it was, that I was being perceived. And I don't know why I hate that a lot. And I always would just go over certain events and just think and rethink of how something should have gone and stuff like that. But when she said that, when at the end of the day, whatever you do or how you exist, if you do it from a good and a happy place, it
Mhm.
doesn't really matter what people say.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that. I know the whole room like bursted out, like just laughing, and we're like, "That's so true." Like we don't say it to ourselves as much, but I now like have it ingrained in my mind. I'm like, it's okay to
Yeah.
just be you, and if not everyone's gonna like you, like you're not everyone's cup of tea,
Oh,
but if you're just doing stuff that is aligned with your purpose, if you're doing stuff that is genuinely how you want to exist in this world, like that's all you can do. And you need to shine, you need to be happy, and not everyone's gonna like you, but that's okay.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. Not
Yeah.
everybody needs to like me.
Yeah.
So you speak a lot about mental health on your platforms. How
Mhm.
can we make mental health not such a taboo topic in school spaces?
Yeah.
You can
So
give us,
yeah.
this is my thing. I ask questions and I can seem like I want the answers to everything. And I don't. Just like ideas, things
Yeah.
that people can, think about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been thinking about that lately. I'm very honest on like my social media platform.
Yeah.
I don't have like I like to share my journey about my mental health space, like how I wasn't always sure of myself. I'm still sometimes I'm like, am I speaking too much? Like I'm still sometimes unsure of myself, but like sharing like my journey of just trying to be my best self and be my authentic self, and sharing that at times I wasn't comfortable like doing this. For example, I wasn't comfortable speaking about myself or my story. I wasn't comfortable just doing uncomfortable things, and I would share like my journey of like today I'm taking one step closer to trying to accomplish something that I really always wanted to, and get out of my comfort zone and just like do things that I'm really wanted to do for the longest time,
Yeah.
but just felt like I was in my way. And I would say for mental health has, at least in my community, has always been like a taboo. It has all like now we're so much better. I'm Somalian, by the way, and when you probably know that, but to people who are listening, yeah, I'm a Somalian, and I know like growing up, it has been a taboo, not so much
Yeah.
anymore. But our community has been working really hard to make it a topic that we speak on a daily basis. And I would say like growing up, like I would, for example, be like, I'm not really feeling well, or I'm shy, or I don't really feel comfortable doing certain things, or I'm just not feeling well today. And I would be told to read the Quran, which is a great thing to do if you're Muslim, to read the Quran or seek religious help, which is a good thing. But sometimes I need mental support.
Yeah.
And I felt that I would be guided to like things that are not really mental health specific. And when I was like in going through like mental health crises, or when I was going through hard times, I would find myself just dealing with it on my own. And as a student or as a youth who like you're in a time where you're figuring it out, whether what you're studying or what you're interested in, or just like figuring out who you wanna be, and I know that's, like, a loaded question for some people when they ask you, "What do you wanna do?" Or
Yeah.
who like, I can still say when someone asks me that, I'm like, "Ooh, let's back up." I could break down my interests, but, like, I can't tell you what I'm gonna be in the next 2, 5, or, like, I could tell you I'm happy,
Yep.
hopefully. But yeah, so in the school space, I would really like it for teachers to just speak on like how ask the students, how are you today? Ask them from a 1 to 10, how are you feeling? And if they're lower than a 8, or like or lower than
Yeah.
a 7, I would ask teachers to speak to them, ask them, are they okay at home? Are there any things that are bothering them? And I've seen so many teachers on TikTok through social media who are doing this. If it's simple as like doing like a routine when you're getting into class, high five, or like just interacting with your students in a happy way
Yeah.
and speaking on it, because as much as we speak on it, it's not going to become a taboo anymore. And I could say, like in the Somali
Yeah.
community, when we kept speaking about mental health, the importance of mental health, it just started becoming less and less of a taboo.
Yeah.
And in the classes, I would say it's the same thing. Like when we if I'm a teacher and I'm saying how my mental health wasn't so good in the past, but now I'm working towards improving it. That's like sharing, although it's vulnerable, it's like sharing to the students that it's okay not to be 100% all the time.
For sure.
It's okay to be not feeling well, but there are steps to feeling better. And having like a counselor in the school would also be really helpful, because
Yeah.
then they're able to talk to them, and creating that as like not a taboo thing. Because I
Yeah.
know high school, like people would be like, oh, you're gonna go speak to the counselor, like, are you okay?
It was a
Like,
weird thing. Yeah.
yeah, I know you could probably relate, but like they would say, oh, why are you going there? Are you okay? Like, are you 13 reasons why? Like they would refer to the Netflix show. And yeah, so I feel like making seeking help and not a taboo is something that's really helpful. And I know there's so many teachers and counselors and even activists pushing for this, and we can see it like being received because students are just
Yeah.
being who they are and happy. And even as much as like offering students a mental health day, like I know there's sick days, but offering
Yeah.
like mental health days would even create more like noise around it, and having students be like, I'm not okay today, I don't really want to come in, but I'll come in when I'm feeling better. And that creates like an honest conversation where
Sure.
counselors can come in, parents can talk about it. And that was like a loaded way of just the
No.
more we talk about it, the more of a less of a taboo it is.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I think even though like teachers have all, I mean, if somebody's a teacher, they've probably been a student, I hope, of some
Yeah,
sort. And they know how much work it takes
yeah,
in each stage of
mhm,
education journey.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's it's bridging between like teacher and student, like they know, but it's also a new generation, and we think about things differently, we react to things differently.
mhm,
There's obviously differences, but like I feel like looking at a teacher as just somebody who is in authority is
Mm,
such a detrimental thing almost, because it's like in some ways you do have people who is like, I'm the teacher, you're the student, I tell you what to do, and that's not healthy. And so like having safe spaces where the teachers and the students communicate freely, I feel like you said,
yeah,
it's super important because the teachers know.
yeah,
They may not know how you're feeling because people react to things differently, but they've been in the
yeah,
position
exactly,
of
yeah.
that stress
Yeah.
of having to complete things, of having to give
Mhm.
people presentations and you're not feeling great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm, exactly.
My words
I
are
understand that completely because I know like school especially it can be stress inducing, especially if you didn't have like parents to show you the way or like if you didn't have access to resources or it
mhm,
just like in general as well, like it can be stress inducing like
yeah.
doing your presentation for the first time in front of your class. Like I remember I was like a nervous wreck. Like I didn't want to say it, but it probably showed and the teacher knew, everyone knew. Like, so creating an environment where it's like
Yeah.
uplifting, create
Mhm.
making school fun. I know we're learning new topics and it can be hard. I know school's challenging, at least it is for me, and I know you
Yes.
probably you
Yeah.
probably you probably think so as well. But creating like an environment where students are there to like uplift each other, where it's fun and just trying to flip like education on its head and trying to make assignments more fun, presentations, creating a different option for it. Like I know some people love presenting. I knew that there's some people in my classes who just like they love talking, they love showing things.
Yeah.
Like that was like speaking was something that they were interested in. But I know some people would love doing like poetry or like some people do like doing art mediums or there's always different alternatives
For
to
sure.
what we currently do to test and testings. So I would say in Toronto, like there's a Somalian teacher who's on TikTok. Her name is Miss Hussein, and the way she interacts with her students, she would be like her whole self. Like she would bring in her music interest. She would bring in like
Oh,
um,
that's
she would
awesome.
she would dress in like how she would dress like outside of school and just showing the kids that like you can
Yeah.
be who you are and be in a position of authority. Like I could see from at least from the TikTok, the kids are having the best time. They would go up to her even though they're not in that class and just creating an environment where the student and the teacher can bond and have a safe space and having all the students around that class uplift each other because of that. I
Yeah.
think I would have loved to be in a
That's
class like that,
perfect.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so like if the teacher creates an environment that is not seeking perfection and just trying to make education much more
uh,
fun than it currently is. I think like every student would benefit from that.
For sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that this year you want to overcome the belief that your words are insignificant.
Mhm.
What advice do you have for youth activists feeling the same? Or they don't have to be activists, but a lot of the times, like I meant like people who are wanting to speak out about, how they're feeling in their spaces and yeah.
Yeah. I know I'm still like overcoming that, but I it's like going back to what I said about um trying not to care about like how you're perceived, like trying not to
Mhm.
care about what people think of you. Cause I know like growing up I wouldn't do certain things like speak because I'm like, how about people make fun of the way I speak? Or like how about if what I'm saying truly is not taken into consideration because I was young or because I'm not perceived to be like an expert. Like I don't have a PhD. Like I'm not fully like I'm only an undergrad student, so they might not take me as seriously as somebody else who would be speaking on like a topic. And I just felt for a very long time that I should just wait. I should wait till I'm done. I should wait until like I finish undergrad. I should wait. I should keep pushing it off.
Yeah.
And I just came to a realization like mid last year. I'm like, what am I waiting for? Like, I've gone through experiences, like, and I can say, like, we're all lived experience,
Mhm.
experts on our own lived experience. Like, if we experience something, we can talk about it. And I tried to implement that like every day since last year. Just trying to not lead with fear, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Try to do things that I really want to do and just do it and not really care if I'm scared. And I know like we all we all feel scared at times, but
Yes.
I felt like I was limiting myself and limiting my possibilities and just my happiness because I was scared to do something uncomfortable. And I feel like in activists and just youth who want to exist in a certain space where our voices are like diminished,
Yeah.
it's okay to try and take steps daily to overcome that because I can say so far it's working out for me, at
Yeah.
least. So
Yes.
I would say just every day, just try and be who you are, your full self, and show up for yourself. And I can say that you are going to be taken as serious because you are speaking confidently, because whatever you've experienced in this lifetime, whatever you have to add to a conversation, whether it's mental health, whether it's about education, climate change, like I see right now it's like SDG week and people are in New York and there's so much youth who are speaking to the Secretary General, they're speaking to like world leaders, and
Yep.
I'm out here like clapping for them because I'm like, they're taken seriously, and it hasn't always been like that, especially within like those kind of spaces. But anytime we just try to be able to like show up as our full self, like that's all we can do.
For
And
sure.
I so far that journey has been working out for me, and anything I could do to share that is like happy for me.
Yes. And then what steps can we take as a society to make education spaces more inclusive and positive? So what does reform look like to you?
Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit, but trying to make what we currently do different. And I know that's very vague, but our curriculum, for example, we don't testing is like not the only way we can make education.
Yeah.
Like there are different mediums, there's art forms, there is debates, there's speeches, there are different mediums where students are like lean towards. So I know like you're a dancer and dancing is a communication. Like
Yeah.
you can say a lot through dancing. And I know having that like within the curriculum where you can showcase like like a topic through it and just having different ways to do education because I know I was in a university class last term. It was history of violence, and they gave us an opportunity to write a poem about an experience that we faced in a like as like where we come from, and we just had to share our experience. And they gave an opportunity to do and use an art medium, and just that made me so excited. I'm like, I don't have to write a 10-page long essay about my
Yeah.
experience. I
Yeah.
could do it in an art form through poetry, and that just made me like even more excited to do education, to be a part of to gain an education. And I know a lot of youth and kids who have to sit through SATs, have to sit through any sort of examinations, get even more like are pushed away a little bit
Yeah.
because nothing in our society is like equal. So like having access to resources to make a testing fair, like is not always available, especially if you're from a socioeconomic background that
Yeah.
like it's just harder for some of us. And we definitely, I think just throwing away SATs in general and throwing testing in general would
Okay.
make education a much more enjoyable process because I feel like when students are like there because they genuinely want to be there and get to choose the way they want to learn as well,
Yeah.
it's just gonna be a better experience. You're gonna learn more, you're gonna be more excited, and yeah, like you're not gonna be as like stressed and nervous as you would be
Yeah.
if you get to try different ways of doing education.
Yeah. That's awesome. Are there any resources you would like my followers and me to read, watch, listen to?
Yeah. I would say you probably know this, but it would be Michelle Obama's Becoming. Reading this book, I have it, but
Look at
reading
that.
this
Look at that, guys. She had it right there.
but reading, reading this book has been like like, it changed my mind in the way I think in some way. She shares her journey of, being and starting off in Chicago, not having it all, to becoming, just to becoming who she is today, like, inspirational, and I would say, like, she has lots of advice here about not leading with fear.
Mm,
She said here, I remember in one of the pages saying that if she led with fear from the beginning, she wouldn't even apply to go to the university she got into because people were saying that because you're an African American, because you are not in the best school, that you're not going to be able to exist in an institution like an Ivy League. And she said that if I just they were elders who were saying that to her, and she said if I listened to their advice about that, that she wouldn't be who she is today.
of
Like she
course.
wouldn't be as fulfilled and being as impactful to youth as she is today. And just reading that, I'm like, as I said, like last year, I had that changing moment. It was
Yeah,
during the time I read this book, and I'm like, let me try not to lead with fear and just try to be authentic to who I am because that will help me become who I want to be in the future. And I know I will be happy, and I know even if something fails, like nothing ever, like sometimes things don't work out the way we think it would,
of course.
but in the chance that I did it and I tried is makes me happy
Yeah.
than if I was just scared and backed off because we learn from our mistakes.
Mm,
And though things might not work out now, it might lead you to a success later on. And I think she has so much really good experiences from being in the White House to and like all this advice in here that I suggest everyone to read it because there's just so much really good advice that she shares about being who you are, not letting where you grew up or um, not having it all stop you from gaining the education you want to get to or being a lawyer or like being in the field that you would like to be in.
yeah.
And yeah, it just helped my confidence a lot. It helped
Yeah.
me with certain things, and you
Yeah.
should all definitely read this if you can.
Awesome. And that will be linked below in whatever the thing below.
Yeah.
Well, every time I record an episode, I'm always like, it's gonna be linked below in the box. I
Yeah.
always forget what it's called. Not the caption. Is it the
Description.
description?
Description. I even remember this. I didn't even know how that popped in my head,
I
but
literally went over like a YouTuber's outro in my head. I was like, what did I say?
down
It's
below.
linked in the description. Okay. And then lastly, where can my followers find you on social media so they can keep up with you? And what's next for you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I'm That's like my main platform. I'm on Instagram and I share like my day-to-day right now. I'm in my third year, so I'm sharing my day-to-day through university, my day-to-day working in politics, and I also just share just like other people's who got like their what is it called? The words in my head. Resources. I share
That's not the word I was gonna say, so
Yeah, so I'll share resources of like applications and things that you can apply to that from different fields. And I know lots of youth would really like that because I know lots of the things that I was a part of, like the SDG through United Nations. It was posted by my friend and I applied for it. So anytime I could like post it and if somebody applies, I'm like, yes, I it's contributing to
that,
something.
yes.
So so I post resources and what I'm doing next. I am go in 2 weeks. I'm going to be speaking. I'm a part of the 1834 Fellowship, and we're having our conference in Ottawa. And I'm doing like I'm very excited. I don't even know why the words
I
are
could
like
tell.
it's my first time writing a policy paper and having to present it. And this paper is the relationship between housing and immigration, because oftentimes I know in like populated countries that immigrants are always like the target of being you're stopping affordable housing. You're taking up all our space. We don't even have resources as it is. Why are you coming here? There's nothing for you. And our group just wanted to like turn that on its head and be like,
Perfect.
where immigrants are contributing to our economy. They're the ones who are helping create housing more affordable because I see immigrants day to day saying that we need to have social housing, we need to have housing that are specifically for immigrants to when they come into Canada, and just being able to write a policy note and being able to present that. So hopefully I can be our group can create change around that. And I'm very excited for that. And I'll be sharing on my Instagram like the day of the conference. And I'm also gonna just be sharing this interview as well.
Yay!
So I'm very excited.
Woo!
One of the first times doing interviews, so I'm very
Really?
excited. No, seriously, like having it posted online, first time. So I'm very
Wow.
excited with that.
I'm
And
honored. I don't know what the first word that came out of my mouth was.
yeah,
Having an issue with words today. I already, yeah, wow. Well,
yeah,
thank you
I'm
for,
excited.
yeah,
Yeah, just I'm gonna be chilling. I'm gonna be doing my work, and
awesome. Well, you did. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview. I forgot it was time for my outro. I was in
sorry.
the conversation. Make sure you follow Ayana on all social media platforms to follow what she is doing. She obviously has something very exciting coming up in a few weeks. And make sure to follow our other social media platforms as well so you don't miss interviews and important information. I hope you enjoyed the 23rd episode of Society Inspired, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.